But if he wants to go buy a house and build a family and have kids, guess what? I want to incentivize him to do it.
Yeah.
We'll give you the incentive to think about it. And it looks like you're creative enough to be thinking about those ideas. You also, the one thing we had a couple guys yesterday that were here, were not happy about one of your ideas, and it got pretty heated. I told him, listen, guys, at least let him give his ideas here. Don't get too upset about it. The moment you came up with this idea that folks in Onlyfans in the state of Florida have to pay 50% taxes, a lot of Adam's friends were not happy. They were upset. They were furious that you're going to charge these guys 50%. Maybe for the audience that doesn't know this idea about OnlyFans, if you don't mind sharing it with them.
Well, young women in this state used to aspire to be business owners, doctors, nurses, teachers, and even devoted mothers. And now you have a disgusting, disgraceful platform called OnlyFans that encourages them to sell nude images and videos of their body on the internet to complete strangers. I want to be very clear. That is sinful. And so we are going to institute a 50% OnlyFans sin tax here in Florida. We are going to make very clear that if you struggle, if you need help, we're going to support you. But if you decide to reject that support and to continue down this path of degeneracy and allow yourself to be exploited by the OnlyFans platform, you're going to pay a 50% tax on everything that you make from OnlyFans. That is how you disincentivize and deter this degenerate behavior. And we're going to use the money, Patrick, to increase public school teacher pay. We are 49th out of 50, rock bottom in public school teacher pay. This is personal for me. My grandmother was a public school teacher for 20 years. I meet with them all the time. I met with one in Orlando the other day. She is living between the back of her Prius and a hotel motel situation at different places outside of Kissimmee. This is a public school teacher who teaches AP computer science, and she doesn't have the means to simply have a place to live. Now, look, I don't believe that housing is a human right, but I believe that you should be paid a dignified market wage so you can go out and remember, you're being rewarded for what you're doing in the school. Let's create a merit-based, performance-based, business-friendly way to pay our teachers, and this is one very smart way to fund it.
And a supply on affordable housing and limit the number of units that can be Section 8s.
Agreed.
Which takes that supply away from that teacher who might otherwise find an apartment and a place to live.
Rob, is this she's responding to him? Mm-hmm. Okay, go for it.
Never in my whole life did I think that I would wake up and see a Florida politician trying to start beef with me for clout. So he's proposing a sin tax on bops where we would have to pay 50% to the state on top of the 37% I already paid to the government. And I would be more than happy to pay that if multi-billion-dollar corporations were also being properly taxed. But surprise, they're not. I never usually get into politics, but there are clearly better ways to raise funds from actual corrupt businesses in our country. I think that people also fail to realize that there are so many creators on this platform that do this job because they're struggling. So to tax them like that when they're literally doing it just to support their families is sad. I would much rather continue donating directly to people in need because we all really know where our tax
By the way, she sounds like she may run for governor for Florida. I mean, she almost sounds like she's campaigning. What do you say about what she just said?
Well, look, I think young, smart, capable women can have better things to do with their life than bending over backwards and taking nude images of themselves and selling them for hundreds of dollars. Sophie Rain makes $90 million a year. My message to Sophie Rain is quit OnlyFans or you owe the state of Florida $42 million and we're going to use it to pay our public school teachers more. It's that simple. As President Reagan said, now is a time for choosing. Sophie, quit OnlyFans or pay your taxes.
She would be moving to Nevada or Tennessee tomorrow.
Good. We don't want her here then. We don't want her here. What does she bring to this state? And this idea, well, people are going to move. Well, if women who are going to engage in that degenerate behavior, who are going to sell nude images and draw men to lust, they're going to lead to the corruption of our youth, then why on earth would we want her here?
Well, I mean, that's the case. That's the case you're making, Tom. You want to say something about it?
Yes, and by the way, before people say, I'm not your defender and I'm not your PR flack, but I will say this. Before people say that this idea is terrible and unprecedented, New York has a tax on a pack of cigarettes. You know what it is? $5.35 per pack, driving the pack of cigarettes in New York to $8. Now, why do they do that? Because it was concluded that this product tobacco causes cancer and no longer represented the public good. And so an excessive tax was placed on a product that people said, you know what, we don't need this product. So before someone says that this is unprecedented, look at what it costs to be a smoker in New York City. You pay $5.35, not 7%, $5 a pack. So this is not unprecedented for the United States to find a product that people think, you know what, there should be an excessive tax on this because this is not a particularly good product.
That's right. And the idea is, if you raise the price on something, what are you doing, Pat? You are decreasing the demand. Look, it's going to be very difficult to actually outright ban this sort of pornographic content, as much as I'd like to do it, because you would run afoul of the First Amendment in the way the Supreme Court currently views it. But what we can do is we can use our tax system to incentivize the good behavior, the moral behavior, the righteous behavior, like getting married, buying a home, having kids, and retiring with dignity, and disincentivize the moral repugnancy, the absolute filth that OnlyFans represents. I would want nothing more than for OnlyFans to go absolutely bankrupt because of what we did here in Florida. And we are, sad to say, we are the adult content creator capital of the world. Let's have our young women aspire to greatness as opposed to online prostitution.
Well, listen, Miami took over Chatsworth. They used to be Chatsworth, but go ahead.
Yes, I mean, like, and by the way, I totally agree with all the stuff you're saying about housing. I love that. But with this, you really want to set the precedent of the state government being able to incentivize and disincentivize behavior with taxes. Like, what's the difference between like explicit modeling pictures and movies, and like there's a constant sexualization with women in every degree of entertainment. So I don't know, is this really like a battle worth picking? Because like it is a result of the economic conditions we're in. Like a lot of guys can't get the type of girl they want because of economic conditions, and a lot of girls see this as an opportunity to get ahead economically. So the cost of living thing, I think, is also applicable to this.
Well, of course it is. And for the very few women who are genuinely on that platform because they can't afford rent, because they can't afford groceries, just know that I'm going to be a governor who's going to help you do that. I'm going to help you get a great paying job. I'm going to help lower costs for you. Not bring inflation down, Pat, but actually lower costs. But guess what? Economic struggle is never an excuse to participate in moral repugnancy. If you can't pay your bills, you can't auction your kids off. If you can't pay your rent, you can't sell your kidney to your neighbor. At some point, we have to draw the line, and I draw that line at pornographic nude content. I do not want our young women to be exploited. I am running for Florida governor to protect young women, to help them get great paying jobs, to find a loving husband, to raise kids, and when it's all said and done, to retire.
And I mean, what if they say though that they don't want that protection? Like I assume you're a small government guy, right? Like you think big government or small government's better?
So I'm not necessarily a small government guy. I'm a smart government guy. I think there's a time and place for the government to step in. Look, people say government shouldn't pick winners and losers. Well, we don't let strip clubs open next to elementary schools. We don't let liquor stores open next to middle schools. So at some point, there are objective winners and losers that government leaders have to stand up and say, that's morally good, that's morally wrong. And I would always embrace that as Florida governor. And, at the end of the day, this is pretty clear cut. I can't tell you how many Democrats, how many Democratic women have reached out to me and said, excellent idea, I support it 110%. Here's the best part, though. Sadly, Florida is what's called a closed primary state. We all know, mathematically, you can pull it up on Polymarket or Call Sheet, the next governor of Florida statistically is going to be a Republican, 91% chance. Why? Because Donald Trump won by 13 points the last election. Ron DeSantis, Tom, you know this, won by 20 points. We have 1.5 million
and
more.
Carried Dade County.
Yeah, and carried Dade County. We have 1.5 million more registered Republicans than we do Democrats. Let's be very honest. I'm going to bet the whole $950 in my campaign account. I'm going to bet the full $950 that the next governor of Florida is going to be Republican. What does that mean? The election in November doesn't matter, Pat. The election that matters is on August 18th. So if you're a Democrat or you're an NPA, an independent, guess what? You should be registering as a Republican so you can vote in the Republican primary. You have a choice between Byron Donalds and myself. That is the choice between new Florida and Byron and old Florida and me. Unaffordability, AI data centers, higher electric bills, no property tax elimination, and all of the good that we are going to create together. We're going to create a movement for working families, young couples, and seniors. And Pat, the only way you can have a voice, the only way you can avoid being disenfranchised is if you register as a Republican by July 20th and vote in our Republican primary. Because if you wait till November, The choice is not really between the Democrat. The Democrat has no chance. Look at those odds, Pat. The markets do not lie. 90% chance the next governor is a Republican. The general election doesn't matter. It's all about the Republican primary. I hope if you even feel somewhat moved by that don't necessarily vote for me. At least register as a Republican. Tom, if I were living up where you were in New York City, guess what? I would probably be a registered Democrat. The same politics I'd have, but I'd want to have a voice in who the next mayor would be.
We were both in L.A., and we made a stop for gas in Texas.
Okay. So L.A., California, I would be a registered Democrat in California. Not because I agree with those politics, but because I'd want to have a say in who the next governor would be. That's decided in the primary, not in the general.
It's a very interesting point you're making. And by the way, again, what I like is I like competition. I like debate because we'll see which best idea lands with people. When Trump came out and everybody was worried in 2015 what he was saying, all of us here are like, wait a minute, a lot of Americans agree with this guy. They don't agree with the other guy, and it was a change. So we'll see what happened there. And FYI, we've had Byron Donalds on. We'll have him on again. Maybe even we'll do a podcast with both of you on to kind of go through some of the ideas. But I'm glad now the audience know who you are. And folks, again, if you want to support him, go to Fishback 2026 to learn more about his campaign, his ideas, and to support him as the governor of, and by the way, APAC and Qatar, don't go to that website. I'm telling you right now. Don't visit it because he's going to give you a refund. Everybody else, you're welcome.